So like how long?
I don't have, where's the voice?
You have to hit little buttons there to say the voice.
Where? No, putting things together.
Good. Yeah, well, let's remember that and go again. Can I just say one thing? Okay. Sure. I got it. It's a good thing I. I'll be around.
Welcome, everyone. How are you? Good evening to everyone. This is Cantor Bogomolni. And so today we are commemorating Yom Hashoa ve'Gevurah. And we have a very, very special program. I'm not going to be the one who's going to talk a lot because we have living museums here, you know, and I see a lot of good faces. I just want to tell you how all this started. When I was 18 years old, back in mid 90s, and I had the chance to go to study to Israel, to study in Yad Vashem. I was studying there for a whole month. I got a scholarship to study with a whole group of educators. I was the youngest. I was tested psychologically twice to go and study at Yad Vashem, and because of my young age, and thanks God I passed. And I was there studying, and we studied for 8 hours each day in Yad Vashem, and for a whole month. And I was there in one of the classes, and all of a sudden they tell us a story. These people who were the martzim, the experts, the scholars who were talking to us, they were all PhDs in each subject that you can ever imagine in the subject of Holocaust. So they were really, their expertise was superb in each of these subjects. And one of them had, brought us this idea that I never heard in my life. and I was just 18. But even the people who were studying with me, who were older and had been educating, and especially about Shoah, about Holocaust for so long, they never heard about this idea that in 1938 there was a conference, 32 countries showed up, that United States was closed, and Argentina, which was also another immigration country, also was closed. The borders were closed, so we're not allowing more people in. And all of a sudden, I will ask everyone if you can, mute yourself, so it will be easier for everyone to hear. And all of a sudden, they tell us this story that one country in those 32 countries that showed up for the Evian Conference, which was in a way supported by United States, by President Roosevelt, they offer 100,000 visas from the Dominican Republic. And I heard of the Dominican Republic, like many people, when you live in Argentina, you think about Punta Cana, you think about, I don't know, Santo Domingo, maybe. But not so much, that you think about other things, in Dominican Republic. And I was mesmerized by this story. And especially there was a story that had another side of it, because many people, even those who know the story of the Evian Conference and then the 100,000 visas that were given by General Trujillo, and the people who were able to be saved from and create a Jewish colony in the north of the Dominican Republic, in the province of Puerto Plata and the city of Sosua and the town of Sosua. Now, there was something interesting that was told us, on that specific class, that Ben Gurion, this is 1938, this is not yet 1948, right? We're talking about 10 years earlier than the state of Israel was created or established. Ben Gurion, even in the so-called Palestina under British government and power, he sent Golda Meir to go to the Evian Conference to stop any country who had the chutzpah, to even offer visas. They need to go to Palestine and they need to go to Israel. How dare any country will offer visas, to save the Jews to the wrong place? We don't really know so much what happened in that conference, because we only get reports, of wherever we get what we have. But just the thought of having Ben Gurion sending Golda Meir with no power, no voice, no vote to stop countries, to save the Jews, without even knowing that what's going to happen just on November of that year. And later on, in the next 6 years of the war, is just amazing. And when I came back to Argentina from that trip after traveling in Europe, someone came to me and said, "Do you want to work in Dominican Republic?" And I look at that person, who is Rabbi Manes Kogan, who was visiting Argentina, and I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "I'm working in Santo Domingo, and I go once a month to a place called Sosua. Would you go?" And I say, "I will go yesterday. I want to leave Argentina. I don't know what the place is." He showed me some pictures. Those times were not like selfie cameras or things like or smartphones. So he had real pictures, like printed. And I say, "It doesn't matter how it looks like. I want to leave Argentina and I want to go there. I would love to go." And I went there for 3 months. And I just encountered, first for 3 months, Erica, I saw your face. First, I went there for 3 months, and then they offered me a job. I mean, like a real job. And then I stayed there as the director, the spiritual leader, as the everything, Rabbi Cantor, wherever you want. And, for another year and a half. Now, I encounter there the best mensch people that I've ever met in the world. Still until today, almost 25 years later, that I still have them, and they will respond to me and say, "Gaston, we will be there for you. will be there for us, for you, and wherever you ask us. And I still have connection with them. And I will never forget the time that I spent in that part of the island, of the Hispaniola island, the Quisqueya, with all these people. And I love to see 25 years later, some of my students who are here, they were little before, now they are young, they are older. And this is what Sosua is. And I'm not going to talk longer about this, but today we bring one of the pioneers, one of the first immigrants, who came to the Dominican Republic. I bring also, his daughter is here. I bring also people who were born first generation, second generation, and many of them are third generation, some living in the Dominican Republic and some living in Miami, some in California, I see. And so this is what we have today. We have a tribute to those who helped save these Jews from the Dominican Republic. How the story goes, they're going to tell us. First, we're going to start by watching a video that will enlighten us to understand a little bit more about how this happened. I heard that you can't hear. People can hear.
Yes.
Some people can hear, some people can't hear.
Oh, we can't.
No, nobody can hear Cantor.
No.
I can hear.
I can
I
hear.
can hear too.
I can
Okay.
hear you as well.
No,
Yes,
not
it's fine.
him, not the Cantor, the video.
I
Video,
hear the
nada.
video.
I can hear the video.
I can hear the video.
Okay.
There's subtitles. There's subtitles.
There are subtitles, so read the
Yeah.
subtitles.
Move it and put it.
I'm sorry, because if some can hear and some can't, so it might not be a problem from my computer. Okay.
It is.
So we'll go again. Here you go.
The subtitles are sufficient.
Seriously?
Right. And the mosquitoes were humming.
We had a joint kitchen. All the women took their turns cooking for everyone. We had a joint dining hall. Everyone ate together. The houses did not have
So right now I would like to introduce my friend Joy Benjamin, and he's going to tell us more about himself. Joe.
Mute yourself, Dad.
He's trying. Joe, you need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Microphone at
Do
You
you
got it.
hear me now?
Yes, Gaston,
Yes.
spotlight him.
Okay, can I start talking?
Yes.
Well, I guess I'll just tell you a little bit about the story of my family and what Sosua was like at the time when we got here and how it developed. So anyway, it all starts, of course, in Germany. My father's taken to a concentration camp, Buchenwald, and my mother got visas to go to China. And at that time, this was 1939. If you had a visa to leave, you could still get out of Germany because Hitler just wanted to get rid of the Jews. But if they left, that was considered getting rid of them. So they went to China in 1939. And I was born in 1941. And my sister was born in 1942. My father was a carpenter, a cabinet maker. And he was creative, and he immediately opened a shop, and he even had some Chinese employees. So and his shop got bombed too by the Japanese. And 1947, the opportunity showed up that he read in a German newspaper called the Aufbau that there was this Jewish refugee colony in the Dominican Republic. He had no idea where that was, but he said, that's where I'm going. So he packed up everything. He made, since he was a carpenter, he made boxes where he hid some money in a double bottom of the boxes. And we left Shanghai in a ship called General Gordon. And we arrived in San Francisco. He bought some tools there, and we took the train to Miami. From Miami, we flew to Ciudad Trujillo at Santo Domingo. In those days, it was Ciudad Trujillo. It was a trip of 8 hours by car from Ciudad Trujillo to Sosua. And we arrived there, and from what my father told me, he was enchanted with Sosua. The first day he saw it, he really liked it. I mean, he'd never been on a farm. He was a city boy, and he became a farmer. And he loved being a farmer. And when we got to Sosua, Sosua was already a community, because we got here in 1947. Sosua started in 1940. And when we got here, there was a hospital, there was a school, there was a general store, we had a veterinary, we had restaurants, and what they called the Kegelbahn, which was bowling. That was a sport here. So Sosua was already a well-operating community. We got a farm, and we got 10 cows, and they put us very far away from the central town, what they call El Batey. And the houses were Spartan. There were 2 bedrooms and a porch and a kitchen and a bathroom. The bathroom was a shower, no toilet. There was a latrine in the back. The houses in the community already had toilets, but the houses on the farms, they did not have toilets. But we were happy as kids. We ran around in the field, and every morning already, a car came to pick us up to go to school. So we went to school from 8 o'clock in the morning till noon. The rest of the day was ours. After a few years, we all had bicycles, we ran around. To grow up in Sosua as a child was really wonderful because you were very free. You could do whatever you want. And nobody was afraid. Nothing ever happened. Kids, I would leave early in the morning. Sometimes if I was home before the sun went down, that was fine. No questions asked. So anyway, the school in Sosua, a very good school, because the classes, the whole school had 60 pupils. And in my class, we were, I think the most we ever were 12 students. So we had this wonderful teacher, Dr. Robicek, who was he actually was a mathematician and a doctor, a medical doctor. And our classes were with him and with Mr. S in the lower grades. From first to fifth grade, it was Mr. S and some other teachers, but from sixth grade on, it was exclusively Dr. Robicek. And he prepared us, and there was no high school in Sosua, so to go to high school, I went to Puerto Plata, spent 4 years in Puerto Plata, and then I left Sosua. I went to school I got a scholarship, and I went to school in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Stayed there 17 years, and I came back to Sosua, and now I've been here now over 40 years again. So basically, out of my 74 years that I've arrived in Sosua, 17 years I did spend in the States, but I always, in the summer, I always was back in Sosua. Sosua was always my home, and that's why I came back. I came back to Sosua, been here now for 40 years again, and I love it, and this is the place where I will die. This is my story. I don't know if there are questions. I gladly answer questions, but I don't know what more to say. That's my bar mitzvah, 13 years old, 1954. That's the rabbi is Mr. Arnoldi, and the other grown up there is Mr. Herzberg.
Handsome young man.
Hi.
Beautiful, Joe. Thank you so much. So Joe is here representing all those who came directly from Europe to the Dominican Republic. So I guess that you're one of the youngest who arrived to.
I'm 80.
No, I didn't ask your age, but yeah.
Okay, I just mean not so young anymore.
That's very good. That's very good. So now we're going to introduce to some of those who are babies of Sosua, who are Sosuans, originally born in Sosua. We're going to start with Jimmy Lavi. Jimmy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. No, when there's a lot of parallelism between what Joe just said and my life. I left, I was born in 1957 in Sosua, and I left in 63, 64. So I was 5 or 6 years old, and we went to Puerto Rico because of the revolution that was taking place in the Dominican Republic. And my experience was quite shocking because in Sosua, I had the most beautiful, idyllic childhood between the beach and the farms and the school and being free to roam around and explore the world. It opened up the magic to a child, and I really experienced that. And now that I've traveled, we moved around quite a bit, my family, and I'm an adult, I'm always in question about the fact that in Sosua, I knew that there were ordinary things taking place as politics, the economy, the social, the religion, but I always felt that there was something invisible, something of a finer quality also present, that despite the trauma and all the things that I think most of us knew existed. There was something finer touching Sosua. And I feel that my decision in life has been, to some degree, made because I always carry that. I always carry that, those questions about what is this, what is this other level that I felt when I lived in Sosua as a child? And when I go back, I still feel it. I cannot tell you that most of the time that I fly back to Miami or wherever I'm living, I'm in tears when the plane takes off, because I feel that I'm leaving my homeland, my roots. So there's a very strong connection that I don't really understand. I feel very indebted to the Dominican people, which I feel sometimes we forget about, for receiving us and being as hospitable as they were. My Aunt Hela, my father, there are many of the older generation in my life who, like my aunt, for instance, didn't want to be here. It's too painful for her to speak about these things, and I understand. So there's something about my responsibility by being here with you to somehow repair something from the past, and in order to bring something new to Sosua, because I think it goes through a cyclical life that I feel at my age, I'm slowly reconnecting to it. We only have a few minutes, right? So I'm gonna be quiet.
That's true, Jimmy. I really appreciate it. And let me just recap on share something with people is that I go to the Sterling in Aventura very often, and that's how I got to meet Jimmy, because his father was there as a resident. Now he changed in where is he specifically, in Regent's Park. And we were doing Jimmy came with his brother, for the Pesach Seder that I did there, and then all of a sudden we started to connect and to talk, and when he says, I'm from Sosua, and I said, are you serious? Are you from Sosua? And that's how I got to actually meet Jimmy, and so I really appreciate for you to be here, Jimmy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and again, what is that attracts people, out of nowhere? There are millions and millions of people. The same thing that happened between you and me happened to me in the Catskills. I'm having dinner, and next to me somebody who lived in Sosua for many years that I had no idea. And we start talking, and there it is. What is that? What is that magnetism?
That's a great question, Jimmy, for us to answer probably in the future, or probably someday. Now I'm going to introduce Renee Kishheimer. Are you there, Renee? I see you there. Let me. You need to unmute yourself. Tienes que silenciarte. No se te escucha todavía, René. Have to touch. Tienes que tocar en donde dice para que se te pueda escuchar. Fíjate a ver si puede. Ahí está.
Okay, ¿me oye? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, very good. Okay, well, I'm going to talk not so much about the remote past. I want to talk about the more recent past, from 2015 up to today. Before that, I have always wanted to project our story, our Sosua story, which is a miraculous story, to the world. This is my lifetime project, and there's a lot of videos and interviews, documentaries that have been made of my family, And I inherited that privilege after my father passed away. A lot of videos have been made about the Sosua story, which I am always participating. I joined an organization called Sosua 75 with a gentleman who presided. His name is Hugh Baver. He's not from Sosua, but he's living in Sosua now. And he moved over here because he was fascinated with our story. As a matter of fact, back in 2014, he found out about it, and he went to Evian, where took place the conference, the very conference that originated the idea for the Joint Distribution Committee out of New York to bring refugees to the Dominican Republic. And the only country out of 32 was the Dominican Republic, which augmented the quota to get refugees from Germany and Austria to the Dominican Republic, to Sosua. And in 2018, they were celebrating the 80th anniversary of the 1938 conference. And I had the privilege of being invited, and I participated in that anniversary at the very site where the conference took place, at the Royal Hotel in Evian by the Lake Geneva. And it was a very, very interesting event. People from many nations, Jewish organizations, I don't recall all the names, but there were very important scholars and people there. And I had a small speech. I had the opportunity to give thanks to the Joint Distribution Committee that brought my parents and everybody else that came in the 40s to Sosua, and to the Dominican Republic, of course, to the government then, and the people that received all these refugees. I have information from people who lived that. I was not born then. When the refugees arrived at the port in Puerto Plata, the people, the Dominicans, were standing in the harbor applauding when people came in. And that gave a very warm feeling to all the refugees, that they were being welcomed, not by a committee, but by the people. The people, just common people, came and applauded when they arrived, that they came to Sosua. So we had, like Joe said, a very idyllic childhood in Sosua. We grew up I have friends among the Dominican friends that were brown skin, black skin, but I never knew they were that. They were just so, Amable, Nicolas, whoever. They were just people that I knew. Later on, I realized, oh, well, this guy was this guy was that, or I had some fellow Jewish friends. One was a redhead. His name was Bobby Freundlich. So, oh, he had red hair. This guy had blonde hair. This guy had black skin. But it was not a racial distinction. It was just a description of the person. So we grew up in a very congenial atmosphere. And I think we were privileged. That generation and the following generation that grew up in Sosua had a marvelous childhood. And I know everybody that went through that would agree with me. And many people always came back for vacation. So when I was 14, that's my father there, Arthur Kirchheimer, Arturo. They called him Arturo Sosua because Kirchheimer was a very complicated name for Dominicans. I left Sosua when I was 14 years old. I had an older sister on my mother's side who was married. So she became my guardian with my brother-in-law. So I went to high school in New York and 1 year of college in New York. But I always came back in the summer, and I never really got separated from Sosua, even though I was living in New York. And then I joined the Navy. I spent 4 years in the Navy, 3.5 years in California, 6 months in Memphis, Tennessee. to a certain school the Navy sent me to. And in 1968, I came back to Dominican Republic, and I worked for many years in Dominican Airlines because that was my specialty. I got my FAA license as an airframe and power plant mechanic. While I was in the Navy, I studied that at the San Diego City College as well. And so I was always connected with Dominican Republic. But I came back to live in Sosua since 1990. I've been living in Sosua 1990. I go occasionally to Miami vacation because my children live in Miami with they don't live with my ex-wife, but they were living with her there for a while. And of course, they're all adult now, have their own family. They all live on their own. They all live in Florida. And I go once in a while to Florida to visit them. But I'm living in Sosua. I'm also, besides the technical aspect of my profession, I'm also an entertainer. So I have a lot of stuff on YouTube. If you want to look me up, my name is Rene Arena in YouTube. And I do sing occasionally here with backup tapes, but I had a musical group for many years, which was called Conjunto Arena. That's why I call myself, my stage name is Rene Arena. So that's my life, and my mission is to project the story of Sosua. So maybe you can see some documentaries on YouTube, which I have about the Sosua story, and we're going to do some podcasts which we're going to radiate once a week, starting sometime next month with Sosua 75, with the gentleman, Hugo Baver, who moved to Sosua. He's living now in Batay, in Pierre Georgia Hotel. So we have a lot of things to look forward to. And maybe next year, if the COVID-19 pandemic calms down, everything goes away, we will have another session in Evian with international people coming to celebrate the same thing all over again, because this story has to go very far. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope you could enjoy it.
Thank you, Rene. Thank you
Okay.
so much. And I do remember very well, Rene. You know, we were playing guitar together, and you're always helping me in every show that we had, any event in the
Yeah,
city.
I
You're always
remember.
helping me.
I remember your production of Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh yes, and we'll show a
That
little
was
bit of that
marvelous.
as
That
well.
was marvelous. If I were a rich man, la da 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 da.
Well, now I would like to invite Julie Wellish. She's going to tell us. She's also one of the first generation, you know, in Sosua, and she's going to tell us about a book that she wrote about Sosua. Julie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you for inviting me. And hello to everyone. Well, I grew up in Sosua. My father arrived in 1941, Kurt Wellish. He arrived thanks to my aunt, Tante Herta, who heard about Sosua while she was in London after my grandparents sent her from Austria, from Vienna to London before Hitler invaded Vienna, in Austria. So I am Kurt Wellish's daughter, and he was married to my mother, who was Dominican. So I come from, both from Jewish immigrant and Dominican family. My mother was from Puerto Plata, and it was a wonderful marriage. My brother and myself, we had a wonderful childhood, as well as Joe and Renee has told, and Jimmy. And so I always was fascinated with the idea of, how everybody could save their lives. And so I always asked my father to please tell me how it was. And he was very patient. When he arrived in the Dominican Republic, he was 16 years old. He even had to go to Jarabacoa, one of the towns up on the mountains, to recover because he was very weak, because since he left so late, so he starved a lot, so he could only eat just a few things, but he recovered, and he was always willing to tell about his story. So what I asked him when I was an adolescent was to record his story, and I would type. When I listened to the tapes, I typed everything that he would tell, and he was very descriptive. So I had always that, about the Jews, the immigrants. And so for the 40th anniversary of this Jewish community, the colony, I came up with a magazine. It was called Sosua, and it was in Spanish and in English. And what I did there is I tried to get in contact, or all the people that had passed through Sosua, to get in contact, among them, so that they will keep in touch. That magazine, lasted about 5 or 6 numbers, I don't remember. And then for the 75th anniversary, actually a few years before that I decided to write a book about not only my father's story, but others' stories, from families in Sosua. That's the book, Páginas contra el Olvido. And it came out in 2015 with 36 stories of families from Sosua. They contributed. They were, I'm so grateful that all have been so, generous to share their stories. Some stories came from the immigrants themselves. Like my father, maybe they wrote something and the kids found that and they handed that out to me, but others didn't. Others didn't want to talk about, those sad years. And so the descendants of those who came narrated to me, what they heard, the few things that they heard, but the 36 stories are wonderful. And that was in 2015. And now I hope by the end of this year, or maybe the beginning of next year, I have translated the book into English, and I have contacted more immigrants. So I will have, it has been already translated and edited. I'm adding 9 or perhaps 12 more stories. So far, there will be 45 stories in the book, in the revised English edition of the book. Besides the stories, I also include the origins of Sosua, of course, how we lived, how was our childhood, and a little bit of the Jewish tradition in Sosua. So that's it. Sorry, I took 1 more minute.
Beautiful, Julie. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, now we're going to move now into the second generation, and these are my dear students. I had to deal with people like Julie and Jimmy and Joe and Renee and Yvonne maybe will be able to come in, and Gisela, I know she's visiting her mother in New York who's sick, but these were like my students, and I'm going to start with Erica. Erica is Joe Benjamin's daughter. And are you there, Erica?
Yep, I'm here.
Let me see if I see you. There you go, Erica. So let me, okay. Welcome, Erica.
Thank you. Do you want me to just start talking or
Yes,
what?
just start talking.
Okay. So Gaston obviously gave us some insight as to what he wanted us to point out. And growing up in Sosua, there we are in that picture. That's myself, my dad, Ifat, and Yvonne. Much like the generation before us, we didn't encounter any anti-Semitism, and it was really about continuing the tradition that we had learned from our parents. And much like everyone else who's spoken, is making sure that we knew what the story was, why our parents were there, why our grandparents came, and being very aware of why we were where we were. And it same for me. It was a great childhood, obviously many years later. And it wasn't until I became an adult and moved to the United States for college that, like Rene mentioned, I found out, oh, not everybody likes Jews. I mean, I knew there was the Holocaust, and obviously that's why we were there, but I never had experienced that growing up. So it was a very new experience for me. And then when Gaston was fortunate enough to come visit us and move to Dominican Republic, a whole other side of, our Jewishness came about. We were really immersed into the religion and our beliefs. And that's not something that I recall, maybe because I was younger, but I don't recall that was the focus. The focus was always, this is a special community. We're linked because everyone here came from somewhere in Europe. The Dominican Republic took them in, and that was our link. And then we were all Jewish. But then as we grew up, it was really, okay, these are your beliefs as a Jew. And you had to think like, okay, well, am I going to continue to be Jewish? Is this not just how I was born? But we were fortunate enough to learn a lot of that from Gaston, and we had our bat mitzvahs, and myself and Ifat and Shiara, we were the first girls to have our bat mitzvahs in Sosua. And, it was a very proud moment. The fact that my picture is in the museum next to my father's is, it's very emotional, and it's not something that everyone can say that they have in their life. So when I meet someone and they say, well, how are you a Dominican Jew? I get to relive that story and retell their story. And, it's very fascinating. And I feel very fortunate to be a part of that. And, many of us live in the United States or other places, and you think, well, maybe you're going to lose touch with those roots when you leave, but really it's continuing that story of resilience, and the positive side of it is what I see of these people made it here, and not everyone got to do that. And that's just something that I hold, very close to my heart, and not something I would ever want to forget, and that I want to keep sharing with whoever wants to listen to the story. Let it be, future generations or Jews that I meet anywhere that I might live. So this Zoom conference has been really nice because I've heard stories that I haven't heard before, and some that I have, and it's just been very enlightening and brought me back to that connection of, where I came from and where my father grew up. And it's just a great story. And I'm so glad that, we're able to share it with everyone else. That's it.
Thank you, Erica. I'm going to go, since we have this picture, which is monumental, the three girls, Erica, Shara, and Ifat, the three of them trained by me and in my time that I went there, and also by Rabbi Manes Kogan. And the three of them are here, which is great. I'm going to call to Shiara now, which is the one in the middle. And you didn't change a bit. None of the three of you look the same. It's just amazing. And also I want you to understand, and they will talk about it probably, but this was the first girls' Benot mitzvah in history. until then, they were not women's bar mitzvah. So this is a very historical picture and a historical moment in Sosua's life. And correct me if I'm wrong. So here goes Chiara. How are you?
Hi, good night, everyone. So I have the same feelings as Erica, so I'm not going to go over it. I actually had thought of what I was going to say. I'm a teacher and I'm a mom of 2 boys. One is 7 and one is 9. But after hearing everyone speak, the word that I have is gratitude, and gratitude to our parents, who some of them are here. Just as a mom and having to, and Ifat knows, because last weekend we were like, so there's no more manishe with wine in the supermarket, and we need the matzah, and we need to make matzah balls, and so just I think that I agree with Erica into the feeling being Jewish. So we always celebrated the holidays, but the understanding the why came when we had a rabbi and Gaston there with us. But I know that our parents, the same thing that they described that they felt as children, we felt as children as well. And now it's our legacy to make sure that our children feel the same way. And so that is one thing that I want to say. It's the gratitude. And the other thing is when Jimmy was talking about the Catskills, I think that growing up Jewish in Dominican Republic, we never felt we never felt anti-Semitism. It was more of wow, embracing cultural differences and how are we different, and that is so unique, and let's celebrate that. And what I think that as a person, when I traveled to Israel, when I lived in New York, it's made me seek out other Jewish communities, and then I've always felt embraced. So I lived 6 years in New York, and I used to go to the synagogue in Fleischmann's, and I felt like I was in the synagogue in Sosua. My brother is living in Dubai now, and he went to the synagogue for Passover, and he's like, wow, it's the same feeling as if I was home. And so I think really that's the purpose of this. And the fact that we are all Jewish, and that we seek out other communities, and that we feel at home. So that was it.
Thank you so much, Shara. And I'm going to call up into the third girl in the picture right now, and it's going to be Ifat. I just saw you have someone with you.
Yes.
Where did it go? That's the
I
third
can't concentrate
generation,
with them around.
Okay.
Well, keeping in tune with what Erica said and what Shiada said, I mean, I think we all share a very common childhood and a very common feeling, and feeling of gratitude and feeling of belonging to Sosua. And like Shiada said, very grateful to our parents and our grandparents that kept those traditions alive when they got here, and made sure that even though we didn't fully understand them as when we were little, but made sure that we kept doing the dinners, we kept doing the celebrations. And like Shiada said, and like Erica said, when you came, Gaston, and when Manis came as well, and we started understanding more the history behind or the traditions behind all those festivals, it became even more important to us and more grounded in our childhood. I can tell you that I remember we did so many things while you were there. The plays, the Fiddler on the Roof, Purim plays, and it really was so much. I mean, growing up in Sosua was just so wonderful, and it's very hard to like find the words to explain. But like Erica said, also, I never encountered any type of anti-Semitism or any type of resistance until actually I left the Dominican Republic as well. And it's you feel like you live in a bubble sometimes, because you're so accepted here that you don't really think that there are people who are actually going to have a problem with you because you're Jewish. And that's something that we never encountered here. I can tell you that one of the memories that I remember when you were there, Gaston, was when on Saturdays, when the younger kids in the community we would go and we would visit the more elderly and spend time with them every morning on Saturdays, and we would get to hear their stories, and they would tell us about their experiences here and how they came here. And it was a way of also for us to connect with the original people who immigrated and get to understand their stories as well. And it's just been, I mean, I live in the Dominican Republic. I'm back here again, and it's my kids live here, and we just keep trying to keep the traditions that our grandfather and grandmothers brought and our parents brought onto us as well.
Thank you. You need to make me a favor before I release these girls and I go to Ronnie, but I need to actually have the three of you, on the same. Let's see. I need to have one more. Hopefully they allow me to do this. Cher, I didn't leave, right?
I'm here and I got the boys. They're up.
Oh, you got the boys.
See them.
I need to have the three of you,
They show.
amazing, that you can bring, some of the future generation. And just, I can't believe actually I have the three of you there. It was so much fun to have you, to train you. Also, there was a month that I went back to Argentina and I went to pick up all my stuff. So I had to train, also Joe and Ifat and Erica and Yvonne to be the leaders of the Friday night services, So I remember I still have the cassette that I gave you, originally, which I recorded in the apartment.
My
And
mom still has that cassette too.
you have that cassette too?
Yes, my mom still has it.
Amazing. It is great, and it's great. So just need to have you there. It's good. Then I will send you a screenshot of these girls, and you'll have it. Okay. Thank you. So I'm going to call up now into Ronnie. I know I saw you there. There you go. Ronnie, you are on, and you live in Miami, right?
Hi, yes, I live in Miami right now.
Sorry, one second. Ronnie is Kirchheimer too, which is the son of Rene and is the grandson of Arturo Sosua. So now you have the floor.
Okay, pretty much they already covered everything I was gonna say. Going back to the point that Eric, Sharon, if had mentioned, as when I was living there, I never know. It's like living in a bubble. Anything about differences between anybody. While my childhood was privileged, I lived there. Like Joe, I remember, like Joe mentioned earlier, I always used to leave home early after school. I used to be school always to like 12, 15. And then the rest of the day I was home, and I used to come when the sun down, and it was no problem. Even though that was later years than Joe and my dad's, it was amazing. I just was privileged. So I always have a connection, always with Sosua. I try to bring my wife there. I always think I can move there in the future, so we'll see. Like once I moved to the United States in my mid teens, then I noticed that people like, oh, you're Jewish and then you're Dominican. So I felt a little different, and which brings me back to my connection a little stronger to Sosua. So I met a lot of people in Miami as well that are from Sosua that have left Sosua. Well, the parents left Sosua and they did the life here, and we don't even know. Well, I didn't even know about it. I worked for Baptist of South Florida, and I met a doctor whose grandparents are from Sosua, which is amazing. Knowing how a little community spreads so much around the world. I lived also in San Diego in 2004. I was in the Navy as well, like my dad. And I met somebody also from Sosua. That person was not Jewish, but always brings you back. It's amazing how the little town comes together from horrific back in World War II, and then grew to something, and then people spawned from there and became from a town that it just grew. Once I moved in my teens, I moved to the United States. I went join the Navy when I was 17. Thereafter, I always used to go back every year until I met my wife and we get married. Then I started going every so often. every 2 years. So, and now once I have kids, now I last time I was there was about 4 years ago, but I'm planning to go back hopefully next year. So, I guess ask me a question or anything, because the girls before me cover everything.
I have a picture here that I want to show you because you know, you are just next to your grandfather. This was an exhibit that we got from Israel, because we had in Santo Domingo, we had the Israeli embassy. So even if we had small amount of community, a small amount of people, you know, the very, you know, a small Jewish community, we still have you know, an Israeli embassy. There's a lot of Israelis in the Dominican Republic. And I remember very well, you know, this picture. And they brought the exhibit, you know, to where is now the museum. Before it was more of our social hall. And we used to do all the events there, as I also, in addition to the synagogue, of course, that was just next door. And just remember your grandfather very, very well. And it's very nice to see this picture. You're just actually having the same posture. I just love it, you know, that. And so before we continue with, I want to share with you what everyone has been talking, which is the Fiddler on the Roof that we did together there.
Why?
His name is Gaston. That's me.
Why are you there?
It's a play.
What do you mean, what play? That's where you're from.
Okay, I think we're going to open up. I thank you everyone who will really be here, and before
Was
we
it 5
continue
minutes?
with the candle lighting and the memorial prayer to put an end And to closure, this event of today of Yom HaShoah, celebrating the life of the Dominican Jews, I would like to open the floor. If you have a few questions, we can entertain some questions. If you have for anyone, or you can ask the question and anyone can answer from our Dominican friends. If you have a question, open your mic and just ask the question.
I have a question: is how many Jews are still residents in Sosua?
Sorry, Perry, were you talking?
Yes, I was.
Oh, could you be closer? I couldn't hear the question.
I asked the question is how many Jews are residents in the city now?
Okay. Anyone who lives in Sosua today can answer that question? Just open the mic.
Well, I guess there are less than 20 descendants, okay? Because original Jews, well, except for Joe, and, I don't think there are any more. So, but the descendants are there. And some live, there all the time. Maybe about less than 20 families. And myself, for example, I live in Santo Domingo, but I go often and I still have a house in Sosua. So I visit regularly. I would say less than 20.
Okay.
20 families.
Thank you, Julie. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Deborah.
Me?
Yes, Deborah. Yes, Debbie.
Okay. So I'm a children's author. I'm a Jewish children's author, and I'm writing a picture book to really document the story. My mother-in-law grew up in Sosua and left when she was about a preteen. And I would love to know if any of you who live there have a special Jewish memory that you could share with me. And also, I would just like to put it out there that I would really love to talk to any one of you individually. I'm very moved by your stories, especially you moms who are raising your children to really value with gratitude what your parents and your grandparents taught you. And so I would really love to be able to talk to you further. But I'm just wondering if anyone has like a brief Jewish memory that they would want to share.
Anyone?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's when we were very young, but the memory of our conversion to Judaism, basically, because some of our mothers were not Jewish. I'll never forget that. I mean, and it wasn't just us, it was many people in the community that did it at the same time because of the mixed Dominican and Jewish families. So all that we had to go through, and then we had to pick our Jewish names that we're like, but we're Jewish, but now we need new names. So that was very significant. And, we went into the ocean and had our conversion there with Manis, who was the rabbi there. And it's just something that I had never thought we would experience. And looking back at it now, it's definitely a good memory, and just, I'm kind of in awe of it still, for sure.
Thank you.
It's more to me in both synagogues, in the one in Santo Domingo and in Sosua. I just remember running around. Both of them had like a green lawn, and we would just play. There were a lot of kids, and so in both of them it was playing. And so when Julie was talking about the Jewish descendants, but we do have 2 Jewish communities, and it's kind of been a legacy because we've gotten different migrations, and now there's a big Venezuelan migration. So there's still, there are also other Jews, and Israeli Jews, American Jews who have come. So it's a big mix.
Thank you.
Also in Sosua, since we were a small community, for Passover, I remember there would always be a big community dinner. And like Shiara said, all the kids would be running around, and we would all read from the Agada together. And it was a very nice sense of community in all of those dinners. Exactly there.
I have a memory of being 4 or 5 years old, and with Dr. Robacek, he would have a bunch of us, 5 kids or so, around the round table. He was wheelchair confined at that time, so he couldn't move very easily. And we would sit around the table and do the dreidel for like Hanukkah. And here you have this very serious man, authority figure, patriarch figure, playing with a dreidel, you know, and singing. And it was so, it was just magical, you know, to have those experiences of being Jewish and doing something so simple, and yet finding that it really impressed you because I was so young. And I think it did to the other kids around the table as well, from this man who was the, you know, the hoichem, the big, the knowledgeable guy of Sosua at that time.
Thank you.
The lady who was in Gaston's picture, Gaston has lots of stories of Senora Kibel, but she lived right in front of our apartment, and for the services, she would always be early, and she would be upset that we weren't ready to get to services. But Gaston has tons of stories about her. And just when you saw that he could dance, so for example, I lived in the city and I would go every weekend. And when we talk about embracing differences, so my friends who were Catholic or any religion, they also learned the dance and dance with us. So there's a lot of growing up here. Like I think we had another Jewish family in my school, and that was it. And it was really, really embracing those differences.
It's true that I have a lot of stories with Mrs. Kibel. She was the music teacher, and I want to share this because for a musician like me, you know, that was very, very hard. You know, what specifically, you know, she was telling me when I met her the first time, and she was a very serious Hungarian lady, and she told me that she stopped listening to music. Here's Mrs. Kibel and Con and Koch, and Mrs. Kibel told me she stopped listening to music. She stopped playing the piano. She sold the piano, and all of a sudden, I understand why a person who was a music teacher, a music lover, a professional pianist, will absolutely stop playing. And she was very hard on herself, and she said that she didn't have time to practice as she used to, and she didn't enjoy this anymore. And she sold the piano, and she stopped listening to music. Little by little, I used to go and pick her up to go Avdallah, and it would be like a romantic Avdallah because it would be just Miss Kibel and myself. Like sometimes nobody else will be there, and Miss Kibel, you know, will just wait for me all with the makeup, you know, and just ready to go with her little cane, and then she will walk with me. We'll go to the synagogue. We'll wait for other Jews, you know, who were maybe tourists or other people from Sosua, but Avdallah was not like a big thing there, but it was for her. And little by little, we started this romance, you know, I mean, considering the age, he was like 80, I was 18. And everyone will make fun of me, you know, especially Joe, of like, wow, you know, what's going on with Mrs. Kibel, you know? And then she will wait for the Avdallah to be over. She told me that her grandfather was a chazan and cantor in Hungary. And then she will wait for me to escort her back home. Little by little, we created this amazing relationship with her. And one day she hands me over a piece of paper with the written lyrics of Beethoven's Ode of Joy in German, and I still have it. And then she handed me over, you know, a Hanukkah menorah and second Hanukkah menorah, and then she gives me a lot of Jewish stuff that she has, you know, with her, and especially the handwritten by her, you know. And then she allows me to sing with her, and then she allows herself to listen to the Ode of Joy in her own house. Once again, music back in her house. That meant the world to me, especially Ode of Joy, you know, which is just a significant, you know, part of the Ninth Symphony of Beethoven. And for her, as a Hungarian, Austrian, it was, yes, it's true, I have a lot of stories, but that one is one I remember that she, you know, before even I left Sosua, she listened to music again. And any other questions? I have plenty of stories too, you know, for sure. But any other questions you might have? Julie?
I would like to comment on what Mr. Ed Farber wrote in the chat. And yeah, I agree with him. The entire country of the Dominican Republic are to be recognized as righteous Gentiles. I agree, because although not the 100,000 visas were used, only about 642 to be exact, according to the archives in the Dorsa archives that are at the Museum of Sosua. But even, you know, even that's a huge number, you know, of people, and it has multiplied. So those 642 immigrants that saved their lives are now more people in the world, and they have, you know, multiplied, and that is something to be grateful to the Dominican Republic. And one of the reasons that I didn't mention before that motivated me to write the book, and now the English version of it, is also to recognize that the Museum of Sosua, the Synagogue of Sosua, the cemetery, the Jewish cemetery of Sosua, are places that, institutions, I call them in the book, that should be, you know, should prevail for generations to come. And so thank you, Mr. Farber.
Rabbi Farber.
That's okay. Rabbi Farber is our Rabbi Emeritus, and thank you so much, Julie. Don't worry, he doesn't appear as a rabbi, you know, on the chat, so don't worry.
Okay. No,
we are going to proceed now and light the candles. And Ida Epstein, are you there? Yes, you are. Can you unmute yourself?
I'm here.
Oh, good, Ida. So, do you want to lead us into the candle lighting with any kavanah, any thoughts as a daughter of survivors?
As you know, I've been helping you for the last few years. This was a completely different program, very interesting, very enlightening. I was not aware of SOSA, and I am very happy to have learned about it. I'm very happy of the people that were saved, because my family was not. As most of you know, my parents were both in the camps, and I was born in a DP camp in Germany. My parents obviously lived. They were a huge family. And the family remained with 3 daughters. Those 3 daughters had 8 children. The 8 children produced 15 grandchildren. And to date, and still growing, we have 24 great-grandchildren. Hitler didn't win. We did. I would like to remember my parents, my family, to all of my second-generation sisters and brothers. May we light our candles to honor and perpetuate the legacies of these families and may we continue to grow.
Thank you, Ed. And I'm going to invite Ed Margolis, who's going to light a special candle that we always light for the seventh candle, which is for the righteous of the nations. In this case, I think we have a lot to be thankful for the Dominican government, the Dominicans who welcome these Jews from Europe with no questions. So there is Ed. Ed, you want to read the meditation you have there?
Yes, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I've asked someone to help light the candle with me, my wife Debbie, and my daughter Sarah may be here in a moment too. So together, we'll light the candle first and say, we vow to never forget the lives of the Jewish men, women, and children who were martyred and are symbolized by this flame. They were tortured and brutalized by human beings who acted like beasts.
Their lives
were taken in cruelty. May we be inspired to learn more about our 6 million brothers and sisters as individuals and as communities, to recall their memory throughout the year so that they will not suffer a double death. May we recall not only the terror of their deaths, but also the splendor of their lives. May the memory of their lives inspire us to hallow our own lives and to live meaningful Jewish lives, so that we may help to ensure that part of who we are shall endure always. May their memory be a blessing for us all.
Amen.
Amen. I'm going to thank you so much, Ed and Debbie. I'm going to invite now Rabbi Roisman, who's going to lead us on the El Maleh Rachamim Memorial Prayer for the 6 million. Rabbi, you're on. Need to unmute yourself. There you are.
El Maleh Rachamim שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה על כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע, מזהירים את כל הנשמות של 6 מיליוני היהודים, חללי השואה באירופה, שנהרגו, שנשחטו, שנשרפו, ושנשפו על קידוש השם, בידי המרצחים הגרמנים הנאצים, ועוזריהם משאר העמים. לכם על הרחמים אסירים בסדר כנפיו לעולמים, בצרור בצרור החיים את נשמותיהם. אדוני הוא נחלתם, אוי בגן עדן תהא מנוחתם, ויעמדו לגורלה לקץ הימים, ונאמר אמן.
Amen, amen, amen. And I'm going to invite, if you all can also please rise, if you're able. Rabbi Farber, still there? Let's see if Rabbi Farber is still there. Okay, if no, Rabbi Roisman can lead us into the special Kaddish.
יתגדל
Auschwitz.
ויתקדש
Lodz.
שמי רבה.
Amen.
Honor.
ועל מה דיברה חירותי,
Bobby Yor,
וימליך מלכותי.
Majdanek,
בחייכון וביומכון,
Birkenau,
ובחיי דכל בית ישראל,
Kofno,
בגלה ובזמן קריב,
Janowska,
ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך ללם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח,
Trenchistad,
ויתפאר ויתרומם,
Buchenwald,
ויתנשא ויתהדר,
Treblinka,
ויתעלה ויתהלל.
Vilna,
שמי דקודשה,
Bergen-Belsen,
בריחו לעילה,
Mount Hansen,
עם כל ברכתה ושירתה,
Dachau,
ושבחתה ונחמתה,
Minsk,
תמירן בעלמה,
Warsaw,
ואמרו אמן.
אמן.
יהא שלמה רבה משמיה וחיים טובים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
And if we can, let's sing together. We bring this to a closure with the tikva, because this is what we still have, is tikva, is hope, and we still have now Israel, and we pray every day that this type of wars and genocides will never exist again, will never happen again, we'll not forget, and we'll sing together a tikva, because Am Israel Chai, people of Israel still alive. Amen. Please rise if you can to sing the national anthem of Israel. Kol hod v'leva penima nefesh Yehudi omiha ulefateh Mizrach ta'ima Ayin leTzion Sofia Od avdat tikvatenu Hatiman Shloshatayim Liot Hamchofshi Be'aretzeinu Eretz Zion V'Yerushalayim Liot Hamchofshi Be'aretzeinu Eretz Zion v'Yerushalayim. Thank you everyone for being here. I wish everyone a good evening, and let's continue remembering everyone who had perished and who couldn't make it, and at the same time to celebrate for those who really made it and continue the legacy and the heritage of the Jewishness that they feel in their blood. Thank you so much, everyone, for being
Kol
here.
hakavod, cousin. Thank you.
Koach Hazan. Thank you.
Kol hakavod. Thank you for a beautiful program.
Thank you.
Gaston.
You all. Thank you, Gaston.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. For sure. Okay.